that populists such as Bolsonaro, Trump, and Boris Johnson have come out of the crisis very badly with blood on their hands. That's one part. The second, the Swedes have historically been outliers and gone their own way. I mean, if you look at the experience of World War II, where they stayed neutral, and this is yet another in a long line of Swedish exceptionalism. And from the outside in, it may seem that opinion within Sweden was monolithic on going down a different route, despite everybody else left, right, and center taking significantly different policy. And in reality, there has been far more debate, including criticism, which is now rising as the evidence of higher Swedish debts become completely impossible to refute, as well as the fact that many of the supposedly less harmful economic effects that Sweden said it was going to see, as the Swedish economy continues to be hit again, in some cases with almost as large a hit as some of the economies that did have a lockdown. It's unclear with hindsight as to whether this was a sensible decision or not. That having been said, again, it wasn't as if there were not significant behavioral changes in Sweden. So Norway, Sweden, Denmark all have high levels of social capital, high levels of trust in government, and people generally took the guidelines very seriously. I saw it firsthand in Norway, even if they were not imposed. So at no point was there police in the streets in Oslo imposing social distancing, for example. And so some of that, so one appropriate way of thinking about it, it wasn't a full lockdown enforced by police on the street, but it was some form of a half lockdown with some more targeted policies that came a bit too late, for example, to isolate the elderly and the vulnerable in Sweden. So it did see a lot of deaths in care homes, as have many other countries. So it wasn't really, it was shades of gray. It wasn't black or white that Sweden didn't have a lockdown and Italy and the UK did.
Well, it's certainly not shades of gray in your native Greece, Sterghios Moschos, because if there are no tourists this summer, the economy really goes down the drain.
Yes, and for better or for worse, I have actually direct contact with the equivalent of SAGE Greece. I have no input, I have to be very clear, but I know a lot of them are panelists. I'm collaborating with some of them on some of the research I'm doing. And none of them, as far as I know, are happy with what's going to happen in the next few weeks, because none of them feel confident that there won't be spread. It's almost inevitable in their minds, and a resurgence of the virus from the inbound tourists. It's a political decision. The question then becomes, who are the expendables on a national level? Now, we saw that in Sweden, the expendables became the people that were elderly. Fabienne pointed out that in the UK and in the United States, the expendables now are going to be the individuals in the low income margins. In Greece, the bedrock of the economy is tourism, and for better or for worse, and they will be the expendables. And I live in England for 20 years. I've seen what happens in Faliraki with the British that go on holiday every year. And I saw in my own neighborhood what happened on the V-Day celebrations. As the alcohol flowed, the inhibitions disappeared. Everybody wants to go back into the pub and have a pint. I totally understand it. Everybody wants to go and work again. But we can't do that if we're dead, or if we're in hospital, or if our grandparents, which we haven't seen in weeks, are put at immediate risk, because our urge to go and hug somebody overwhelms our inhibitions, especially after a tipple.